persons not having privilege of the floor will please vacate the chamber at this time, and all members and guests in the galleries will please rise as we are led in prayer this morning by the gentleman of the 5th, Doug Peffel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for giving us this opportunity to assemble here today. We would ask that the words that are spoken and the deeds that are done here today would be in your will. We asked you would be with the Bryant family, who tragically lost not only a husband, a daughter, and other friends. We asked you would be with that family, and asked you would be with all families around our country and our state that are suffering today. Now watch over us, guide us, and in death save us. Amen.
Amen. Members and guests will please remain standing as we are led in the Pledge of Allegiance by the gentleman of the 12th, Doug Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All our members and our guests, please recite the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members and guests may be seated. Reading of the Journal.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Charleston, Friday, January 24th, 2020.
Gentleman of the 44th, Doug Hanna.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read.
The gentleman of the 44th asks unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and it be approved as having been read. Are there objections? Chair hears no objections. Further reading of the journal be dispensed with. Introduction of guests. Introduction of guests. Ladies and gentlemen, the chair is pleased to have this morning as a guest Riley Sparks from James Monroe High School. Mr. Sparks is the Speaker of the House for the West Virginia Youth in Government Program. Without objection, Mr. Sparks will lead us through introduction of guests today. Chair hears no objection. Mr. Speaker.
Delegate from the 10th, Mr. Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I am proud to announce that my daughter, Brandy Chris Johns, is here, and that my granddaughter, Josie Johns, and her friend Kate Weigel are here later today. They are to interview the Speaker for their social science project. Thank you.
Delegate from the 23rd, Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have 2 pages today from Boone County. Both are seniors at Sherman High School, if they would stand to be recognized. We have Jacob Massey and Connor Sawyers. Would the House please make them feel welcome?
Delegate from the 51st, Walker.
Thank you so much. Would the House please welcome Morgan Towns, City Mayor Bill Kowecki, Jenny Celine, and Barry Wendell. Can you guys please stand up, and would the House please give them a warm welcome?
Delegate from the 31st, Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have 2 introductions today. I have a good friend here, the Superintendent of Raleigh County Schools, David Price, and also Superintendent of Town of Fayetteville, Matt Diedrich. If you all make them feel welcome.
Delegate from the 29th, Steele.
Thank you. In the gallery with us today from West Virginians for Health Freedom are Jennifer Oliver and Ethan Oliver. If the House can make them feel welcome.
Delegate from the 61st, Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a couple of very special guests today. The Foster family that have touched all of our hearts, Monica and Robert Kinder. Would they please stand and the House make them welcome?
Delegate from the 4th, Canist.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Today in the South Gallery, we have some special guests from the City of Moundsville, City Manager Rick Healy, Councilwoman Judy Hunt, and Councilman Gene Saunders. If they could please stand and let the House make them feel welcome.
Delegate from the 48th, Queen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have my uncle with me today in the gallery behind me, the Mayor of Bridgeport. Please help me welcome Andy Lang.
Delegate from the 32nd, Fast.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize in the North Gallery some friends from the city of Oak Hill. We have some council members, Missy Wilshire. We also have our city manager, Bill Hannabass, and others from the city of Oak Hill. If you would please stand and may the House make them welcome.
Delegate from the 5th, Pethel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In the South Gallery today, I have guests here from the city of New Martinsville, Councilman Joel Potts and Recorder Kim Whiteman. I'd ask they please stand and the House make them welcome. Thank you.
Delegate from the 4th, Zuckoff.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a very special page with us today from my area. Noah Grigsby is here. He's a 5th grader from McMecken Elementary School. And when Noah was in preschool, he found out that one of his friends went hungry at school, at home. And he started a food drive in preschool to raise 100 cans of food to help the children in his school. And it became so popular that his school gave him a closet, which became known as Noah's Help the Hungry food closet. And he and his family and community keep that closet filled with food all year round. And they also do a special Thanksgiving program that feeds about 60 elderly families in the community of McMecken. Noah Grigsby, would you please stand up? And the House make him feel welcome.
Delegate from the 7th, Barnhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have some very special guests with us today. First of all, in the North Gallery, we have my uncle from Pleasants County and his current Pleasants County School Superintendent, Mr. Mike Wells. And then in the South Gallery, we have the longest-serving mayor of Harrisville from Ritchie County, Mr. Alan Hott. I'd ask that they both stand, and I'd like the House to make them feel welcome. Thank you.
Delegate from the 2nd, DeZero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a couple announcements today. In the South Gallery, joining us today from the city of Follansbee, we have the city manager, John DeStefano, and Councilwoman Alexis Russell. If they would stand in the House, please help me make them welcome. And as well today, we have joining us my very good friend and former delegate, Mike Farrow. If you'd all make him feel welcome.
Delegate from the 17th, Lovejoy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today in the South Gallery, we have a former member and my mayor, the mayor of the city of Huntington, Steve Williams. Steve, if you'd stand up, House, make him feel welcome.
Delegate from the 19th, Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Along with the former mayor and House of Delegate member is our City of Huntington Chief of Police, Hank Dial. Hank, if you're up there, please stand up. And also, on behalf of Robbie Thompson and myself, I would like to introduce several pages from Wayne County. These pages are Chase Freeze, Emily Artrip, Zoe Sanders, and Gage Dawson. House, please make them welcome.
Delegate from the 42nd, Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Delegate Lavender Bowe and I, we have a page today with us. If he would stand, from Eastern Greenbrier Middle School, Sean Ralston, and he's brought here today in the West Gallery by his father, Bob Ralston. Will the House please make them welcome?
Delegate from the 50th, Angel Lucy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I knew you were going to call me because the Speaker had to help you pronounce my name. You're doing a great job. On behalf of Delegates Caputo and Longstreth, we'd like to welcome some City Council folks from the City of Fairmont. They do a great job for our municipality, and they're here for Municipal League Day. I'd like to welcome Valerie Means, City Manager. If she would please stand. She's in the South Gallery. Brad Merrifield, Mayor of Fairmont. Janet Keller, City Clerk. And Council Members Tom Manella, Frank Yan, Donna Blood, and Barry Bledsoe. Welcome to the Capitol.
Delegate from the 50th, Longstreth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is Pierpont Community and Technical College Day out in the Rotunda, and if you get a chance, please go out and visit them. And I think down at the end, they have some pepperoni rolls that are very good. So if you will say hello to them, and I would like to say and welcome President Moore and his staff. They're not here, I don't believe, but I'd like to welcome them here to the Capitol. And would you please give them a hand in case they are back here and I can't see them? Thank you.
Delegate from the 13th, Higginbotham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am happy to have somebody standing in the North Gallery. Chris Price is from Mountain Care Network and does quite a bit of in-home therapy for mental health care services, and if the House would please make him feel welcome.
Delegate from the 19th, Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of myself and Delegate Hicks, we have a few additional pages from Fort Gay Pre-K through 8 school. If they would rise when I call their name, they are Abby Hipshire, Peyton Markham, and Braden Hill. Please give them a warm round of applause.
Delegate from the 28th, Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of my colleagues, Delegate Cooper, Campbell, and Lavender Bowe in the West Gallery, we have some visitors with us today. We have Miss Ashley Mann from James Monroe High School, if she would stand. Dr. Colonel Womack, if he is still up there, if he would stand. If any of the folks are there from Youth and Government, if they would stand. And Mr. Speaker, we also have the mother of our presiding officer, the Mayor of Union, the Honorable Carolyn Sparks. If you all please stand and the House make you welcome.
Delegate from the 10th, Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have friends with us today from the West Virginia Municipal League. Would you please join the delegates from District 10 in welcoming the Mayor of Parkersburg, Mr. Tom Joyce, and the Mayor of the City of Vienna, Randy Rapp. If they'd stand, please, and the House make them feel welcome.
Delegate from the 35th, Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the delegates in the 35th, today in the South Gallery, we have the Mayor of St. Albans, Scott James. If you would please stand and the members join us in making him welcome. Thank you.
Delegate from the 4th, Zukov.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, for the Municipal League, we have some folks with us from the City of Glendale. Delegate Canestraro and I would like to welcome Mayor Dave Blazer, Recorder Jerry Trembush, City Clerk Jane Criswell, who is also our page Noah's grandma, and Police Chief Vogler, and City Council members John Zinn, Lou Richmond, Eric Anderson, Larry English, and Eric Cunningham. If the House would please make them feel welcome.
Delegate from the 48th, Queen.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. I want to introduce, I see in the gallery, the lady who was in charge of my high school education and who was in charge of running the school system in Harrison County for many years. If Susan Collins would please stand and the House make her feel welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we have a hand for Speaker Sparks. Are there further introductions? If not, report to standing committees.
Your Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 4476, providing for the timely and efficient collection, submission, testing, retention, and disposition of forensic evidence in sexual assault cases, House Bill 4496, removing the specific mandate of the Board of Risk and Insurance Management to purchase liability insurance for the Division of Corrections, House Bill 4501, relating to the ability to refuse offenders for a commitment to a jail, House Bill 4510, prohibiting bodily intrusion by an inmate upon any person at any correctional facility, reports the same back with recommendation that each do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration House Bill 4120, requiring the Commissioner of Highways to develop a formula for allocating road funds among districts, and House Bill 4353, creating a rational nexus requirement between prior criminal conduct and initial licensure decision-making, reports the same back with the recommendation that each do pass.
The report will be received pursuant to House Rule 80. House Bill 4120 will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had into consideration House Bill 4026, exempting businesses transporting scrap tires, waste tires, or other used tires from certain statutory provisions. Reports back to committee substitute, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Prevention and Treatment of Substance Abuse has had in consideration House Bill 4493, relating to age verification requirements for delivery of sales of tobacco. Reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, that it be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources.
The report will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources. Are there further reports to standing committees? If not, reports of select committees. Messages from the Executive. Message from the Senate.
The Clerk of the Senate announces passage by the Senate of Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 144, creating misdemeanor penalty for making materially false statement in course of misdemeanor investigation.
The message will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
The Senate has passed Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 311, relating to court-ordered community service.
The message will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
The Senate has passed Senate Bill 321, relating to collection of tax and priority of distribution of estate or property in receivership.
The message will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Are there further messages from the Senate? If not, resolutions.
House Concurrent Resolution 35, United States Navy Boiler Technician Second Class Wade E. Burnside Memorial Bridge.
Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the chamber automation system.
The lady from the 49th asks unanimous consent that further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Are there objections? Chair hears no objections. Petitions? Motions? Bills introduced.
House Bill 4544, relating to possession of any controlled substance on the premises or within 200 feet of a public library.
Lady from the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with, and that each bill be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the chamber automation system.
The lady from the 49th asks unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with, and that each bill be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Are there objections? The chair hears no objections. Unfinished business. Bills on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4011, reorganizing various boards and authorities for the licensing and oversight of trades, occupations, and professions.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? The chair hears no objection. The gentleman from the 56th, Doug Howe, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of this bill is to reorganize the various boards and authorities for the licensing and oversight of occupations and professions. The bill separates the boards and commissions in Chapter 30 into 3 chapters. Healthcare professionals remain in Chapter 30. Advanced education occupations are moved to Chapter 30A, and non-baccalaureate occupations are moved to the new Chapter 30B. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? The gentleman at 36, Douglas Robinson, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the chairman yield?
Chairman does not yield.
Will the vice chairman yield?
Gentleman does not.
Mr. Speaker, will the lead sponsor of the bill yield?
Which member is the lead sponsor? Chair does not have the bill before him.
Delegate Little.
Gentleman from the 9th has been asked to yield for a question. Does the gentleman yield for a question? Gentleman does not.
Will the gentleman from the 30th yield?
Apparently so.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Delegate. I appreciate that. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. I hope you can answer these because we don't have any information from the sponsors or the committee chairman, vice committee chairman, or any others.
I'll do my best.
Why are we putting this bill forward? Can you give me a reason for that?
I'm not sure. My understanding is it's a reorganization of the chapter, so it's clerical, or it doesn't actually do anything. It actually just reorders the section. That was what my understanding is.
So this bill doesn't do anything. It just kind of moves things around in code.
That's my understanding. Is it reorganizes how they're listed within the. So it puts them into buckets.
Okay.
So I belong to a board that's governed under this section. So they put all the healthcare people together and all the other people together and other people together. So that's really all I know, is that it's sort of we just move the words around.
Do you know how the rulemaking authority is dealt with in this?
I have no idea if it has any impact on rulemaking.
Do you think the rulemaking, since we have to change code references, would that constitute a new rule?
You actually raise a very interesting question, because I think throughout the rules they reference code sections in extensive detail. So there are multiple places throughout the code and the rule where they're cross-referenced.
Now, Delegate, we passed a bill a couple years ago that says every time we have a new rule, we have to delete 2 or something of that sort, right?
I'm not sure about that one. I do remember the sunset provision, but I'm not sure about the 2-for-1 rule.
Okay. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Speak to the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I've been told that not one other state in the country separates their licenses like this. I'm not sure of that because I've asked the chairman to yield and he declined. We passed a bill a couple years ago. For every new rule, we have to delete one. We're unclear if we have to delete rules because we changed the code reference in each of these. I'm also been told that there are various errors as to where some of these licensees are located within Chapter 30A, Chapter 30B. I think this is a bill that is unnecessary, and it's 350 pages long, and it appears that the committee has not done due diligence to make sure there are no errors. I'd suggest we vote it down. Thank you.
The lady in the 51st, Dr. Fleischauer, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question of the Speaker, and then I have some more questions. Under our rules, isn't it required that someone explain the bill?
That is
And
not
has
the chair.
that happened?
That is not the chair's understanding is the delegate gave it and an explanation of the bill.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe I can ask for volunteers. How does this bill affect attorneys at law? I have received a rather lengthy email about requirements about an annual report to go to the governor, and I'd like to know more about how it affects attorneys. Is there somebody in the room that it could explain that part of the bill?
The gentleman in the 56th is yielding for that question.
So, thank you.
They would not be affected. They're regulated by the Supreme Court.
Well, there is a section of the code that talks about regulation of attorneys, isn't there?
There is, but it has no effect because the courts have ruled the executive authority to define and regulate, control, and the practice of the law of West Virginia is vested in the Supreme Court.
Well, I understand that, but we can is there a requirement about reports that have to go to the governors by attorneys in this 300-page bill?
That is set by the bar.
Is there anything in law that changed as a result of this relating to attorneys at law?
Nothing changes.
Okay. So this email that I have that says the elimination of the regulation of attorneys at law by repealing Article 2 and not removing the regulation of attorneys at law into the new Chapter 30A or 30B is a substantial change. Is that incorrect?
There is no practical change because the court ruling has said they're ruled by the Supreme Court. Sorry.
So are attorneys currently required to make a report annually to the governor?
By the bar, I'm told.
I have never heard of that report. And the legislature.
I'm told it's the bar that regulates that, along with the Supreme Court.
So, can you explain a little bit more about the administration that will be changing as a result of this change to the code?
There is no administration, no rules need to be redone. What it does is it literally just separates the code sections out into 3 separate pieces.
And what are those 3 separate pieces?
Medical, baccalaureate level occupations that are non-medical, and non-baccalaureate occupations.
Okay. And are there going to be any staff changes as a result of passage of this bill?
I'm sorry, there's some noise coming from the...
Are there going to be any staff changes?
No, ma'am.
So all the staff that are currently employed would remain employed for now?
The boards will see no change.
Is there any thought that there could be efficiencies in the future by this change?
Yes.
And what might they be?
Give me an example. If the medical boards chose to share staff, it would be much easier to do it with the code section separated out. We could go into Article 1 of that section. That was one of the things that the osteopaths liked about the bill. They said they could do that. They were also, in the past, they had been missed because if you do something in the current code in Chapter 1, you have to go in and exempt all these other boards that are non-medical, or if you're doing something with non-medical the other way. This allows us to go into Article 1 in the various sections and make the changes that the boards want.
Okay, so is there any thought that there might be a super medical board or a super baccalaureate board in the future?
No, ma'am.
And that maybe doctors would be running the show as opposed to nurses or LPNs, even though they're much more numerous?
No, ma'am. All the boards remain separate.
But they could do that in the future once these code sections were combined.
Any future legislature could do anything.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for responding. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman at 37th, Dr. Pushkin, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the chairman of government organization yield? Oh, thank you. Could I direct your attention to the page 365 of the bill, please?
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
363 is the last page.
363 is the last page?
You looking at the green bill or the com sub?
What's that?
It's either one. It's just the last sentence.
The last sentence of the page. On mine, it's 365. Does the last sentence of the bill, is that relate to the new Chapter 30B and the create of an effective date?
That's old code because we didn't change anything and the code just separated it out. That was the effective date from the original code.
Well, it's a new chapter, right? Chapter 30B. That doesn't exist now, right?
It continues things from the current code.
It's a brand new article. But that doesn't exist in current code. We're creating a new article, right?
We are, but this prevents a gap, saying the rules and everything extends from 01.
Okay, so it says that basically for benefit everybody else who's not following at home, it has an effective date of 19 years ago, July 1st, 2001, related that it takes effect something that didn't exist then.
It did exist.
Right?
It did exist in the old code. We're continuing the old code. There are no changes. We're just separating them out.
Chapter 30B currently exists or existed in 2001?
What is in Chapter 30B currently exists. That was originally enacted in 2001 and is continuing through to this date without change. We're just moving it into another section.
But that's underlined. In my version, it's underlined, which means it's new.
It's underlined because we had to move everything, but we copied the code.
Thank you for yielding. I would move that we recommit this to the Committee on Government Organization. I think that I think there's in my opinion, is a major flaw in the bill, and you're having something take effect that doesn't currently exist. That's what the bill does, is create it, and it's retroactively referring to code that doesn't exist. So I move that we recommit it.
The question before the House is the motion that House Bill 4011, committee substitute for House Bill 4011 be recommitted to the Committee on Government Organization. This is a debatable motion. Is there discussion? The gentleman, the 55th, Douglas Spinagle. Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the motion? The lady from the 49th, Douglas Summers.
Mr. Speaker, I would suggest that this bill has been properly worked through the committee. I think that some people just failed to read it because it is so long. All the bill does is reorganize Chapter 30 into 3 sections: baccalaureate level professions, health-related professions, and trades. And it makes it much easier when you're trying to do regulations for these sections not to have to open the entire Chapter 30. I know we've done this in the past with child welfare. We reorganized that whole section. This is not a new concept. I think people just are misinformed.
The gentleman, the 30th, Douglas Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the gentleman's motion, and because of the issue with the effective date, this creates new articles of code, and we've got an effective date of 2001. So, I have no opposition, no objection to reorganizing the code. I just think that we might have got this moving a bit quick. So it's single reference, I understand, and I think the gentleman's motion is well intended, and it gives us an opportunity to make sure that all the questions and concerns have been raised today. It's day 20. We've got plenty of time to get this thing done. If we're going to do it, let's do it correctly. So I would support the gentleman's motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question is on the motion that the committee substitute for House Bill 4011 be recommitted to the Committee on Government Organization. Lady in the 51st, Douglas Fleshauer is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to support the gentleman's motion. I don't think you can say that a brand new code section is effective as of 19 years ago. I've never seen anything like that. I think it might be a simple fix, but I'm uncertain as to all the other changes, especially when so few people were willing to rise and answer questions. So I support the gentleman's motion. I think that's not appropriate to have that language at the end of the bill, and I'm concerned that there may be other inaccuracies because of the speed with which it was enacted.
Are there other members who wish to speak to the question of the motion that House Bill Committee Substitute for House Bill 4011 be recommitted to the Committee on Government Organization before the chair recognizes the maker of the motion to close debate? If not, the gentleman at 37th, Doug Pushkin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentlelady from 51st is right. It is a fairly simple fix. I would just remind the body, if you would like to do this the correct way, vote for the motion, let them fix it in committee. If you're okay with doing things the wrong way, then vote against the motion. I'd like to get it right.
The question is on adoption of the motion that committee substitute for House Bill 4011 be recommitted to the Committee on Government Organization. Roll call has been demanded. Is demand sustained? Demand is sustained. Those in favor of the motion that committee substitute for House Bill 4011 be recommitted to the Committee on Government Organization will vote aye. Those opposed to the motion will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Gentleman the 13th, Doug Cadle. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There are 38 ayes, 55 nays, 7 members absent not voting, less than a majority having voted in the affirmative. Chair declares the motion lost. Are there further members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? The gentleman with 55th, Doug Spinaga, was recognized.
Will the chairman yield?
Chairman does yield.
So I'm clear, and I'm sitting here looking it up. Chapter 30 is composed of Article 1 going down to Article 41, and there's subsections throughout it. This bill, did it make any changes to the requirements or qualifications set forth in all those sections in those articles, or do you just reclassify them, just so I'm clear on it?
No changes.
Okay, so you just basically took, Article 1 through whatever, set them over here, bucket A, Article 10 through 25, bucket B. You just reorganizing the way the code's structured in the bill.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Does the gentleman of 56 wish to close debate on the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. There are 58 ayes, 35 nays, 7 members absent not voting. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative. Chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4011.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk. Will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4129 relating to adoption.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? The chair hears no objection. The gentleman, the 41st, Doug Hill, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of this bill is to update adoption laws. The bill permits the adoption hearing to take place in the county in which the foster child was originally removed or the county in which the adoptive parents reside at the discretion of the adoptive parents. Removes the 45-day period between the filing of the petition for adoption of a child and the hearing on the adoption petition. The hearing may be held only after the child has lived with the adoptive parent or parents for a period of 6 months. Proper notice has been given and all necessary consents or relinquishments have been executed or submitted. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine.
Give us a lot of information there.
Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 93 ayes, 0 nays, 7 members absent not voting. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative. The chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4129.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk. Will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4146 relating to credit for reinsurance.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? Chair hears no objection. The gentleman, the 12th, Doug Westfall, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is House Bill 4146, request of the Insurance Commissioner. The bill amends and reenacts 33-4-15A to the Code of West Virginia. The bill implements the reinsurance collateral provisions set forth in agreements entered between the United States and European Union. The legislation amends current requirements concerning credit for reinsurance, which is credit reflects on a insured annual statement showing reinsurance premiums and loss recoverable for the insurer. Aligns modification of existing language throughout the bill. Also, I'm reading this, sir. We did not have the abstract ready here. The National Association of Insurance Commissioner Credit and Reinsurance Model Act, and if the states have not adopted provisions substantial equivalent, the exemption may apply to insurance and operation in accordance with provisions substantial equivalent to a minimum of 5 of other states. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge adoption.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are the members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 92 ayes, 0 nays, 8 members absent not voting, a majority of members having voted in the affirmative. The chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4146.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4149 relating to insurance.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? Chair hears no objection. The gentleman from the 12th, Douglas Westfall, will explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 4149 relating to insurance. The bill amends the existing statutory definition of service contract to be expressly included in certain services by the exclusion existing statutory protection to apply to new categories. These protections include protection for insurance and providers are required to making specific consumer protection disclosures. Contact to provide the following service will be expressly preferred to proposed legislation. Repair and replacing of tires damaged by road hazards, removal of dents by paintless dent removal, the repair of chips or cracks and replacement of motor vehicle windshields, replacement of motor vehicle key blobs, and coverage for excessive wear and tear on leased vehicles. Mr. Speaker, this bill says that these things that are sold as warranties are not insurance and not required to be sold by a licensed insurance. They're usually sold by car dealerships or extended warranties. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are the members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? The gentleman to 32nd, Doug Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the presenter yield?
I'll try, yes, sir.
Just a question. Right now, under existing code, are these matters considered insurance?
No, sir.
And this bill would just confirm that these are not considered insurance?
It confirms that, and also that they are not required to have a license to sell these things.
And so if a provider issues a contract to an individual that would provide vehicle protection for these items, then it would just simply be a matter of contract?
Correct.
And the enforcement of that would be a matter of bringing a cause of action?
It would be. The insurance commissioner would not see that, but probably the attorney general who would see this, yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman to the 48th, Doug Hamrick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman still yield for a quick question? And I'm just to clarify, because I might be completely outside the realm of the bill, but would this have anything to do with, I know some insurance companies actually offer sort of, I'm not sure if gap insurance would be included in one of these service kind of things or not, but some insurance companies now offer that product as well. This wouldn't have anything to do with...
Can you say, I can't hear you. Can you say that again, please?
Sorry, like the gap insurance, is this a different type of service product, or would that be...
Gap insurance is different than this. This is, okay. Gap insurance covers if you're upside down on a car loan. Say your car is worth $10,000 and you total the vehicle, and the vehicle you're only getting $5,000, you're upside down. Gap insurance covers that difference to pay off the car. This is not gap insurance.
Okay, so these are the other service products that are offered.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
The lady in the 50th, Doug Longstreth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
I'm a little confused, and I wasn't in that particular committee. This is not going to change anyone's car insurance.
No. This
They
is
don't
really
have to do any extra insurance. This is not eliminating anything that's going to protect them.
This is, say you buy a warranty, you can actually buy a warranty for rims on your car. And the rims get damaged, the warranty will pay for them. You don't have to make a claim on your insurance.
Correct.
Now, if you will make a claim on your insurance, say you hit a pothole in West Virginia and bust your rim, that's a collision loss. You'll have a deductible. Most of these warranties do not have a deductible. So
Okay,
that actually makes it better for the insureds if they do buy these things.
Okay, so it doesn't change. If I have that on my insurance policy, that does not change.
You will
and
not be
cannot
caring from your
denied
insurance
if I hit a
agent.
pothole.
No, we didn't change the insurance at all. That is
Okay.
not.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Does the gentleman from the 12th wish to close debate on the bill? If not, the question before the House is shall the bill pass? Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Lady in the 4th, Doug Zukoff, your vote is not registered. Has every member voted? Gentleman in the 48th, Doug Hamrick, your vote's not registered. The clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 93 ayes, 0 nays, 7 members absent not voting. A majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4149.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4166, prohibiting certain sex offenders from being in a supervisory position over children.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? Chair hears no objection. The gentleman in the 15th, Doug Foster, is recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 4166 concerns the terms of supervised release for certain sexual offenders. A similar bill to this bill, House Bill 2423 passed unanimously of the House last year. Currently, West Virginia Code 621226 applies to certain restrictions for a period of extended supervision of certain sex offenders. In addition to these restrictions, this bill creates a new subsection to prohibit certain sexual offenders from having a supervisory role over groups of children. The sexual offenses specified are first-degree sexual assault and first-degree sexual abuse. The groups of children that they're prohibited from overseeing including but not limited to Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H organizations, sporting or scholastic teams, music, sporting, and theater groups, and camps, summer day camps. Mr. Speaker, I urge passage.
The question before the House is shall the bill pass? Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 93 ayes, 0 nays, 7 members absent not voting. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4166.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action to the House to the Senate, request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4411, relating to the West Virginia Residential Mortgage Lender, Broker, and Servicer Act.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? Chair hears no objection. The gentleman in the 35th, Doug Nelson, to explain the bill.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 4411 comes directly from your Banking and Insurance Committee and was a coordinated effort between the Mortgage Bankers Association and the state's financial regulatory agency, the Division of Financial Institutions. This is meant to address a technical issue regarding the final payment on mortgage loans. Currently in code, all your mortgage payments, your annual or monthly payments, need to be of the same amount. But the final payment has to be at the same amount or less than the prior payments. The language that's added in this bill will allow that last payment to be as much as $5 greater than any of the prior mortgage payments. Mr. Speaker, this is good for the financial institutions, and most importantly, it's good for our constituents, and I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 93 ayes, 0 nays, 7 members absent not voting. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4411.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk. Will be in to remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Request concurrence therein. Are there further bills on third reading? If not, bills on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2497 relating to the whistleblower law.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4089 requiring cursive writing to be taught.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4365 granting of college credit hours for learning English as a second language.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4480 relating to legislative rules for the Higher Education Policy Commission.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on second reading? If not, bills on first reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 323 authorizing the Department of Administration to promulgate legislative rules.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2419 relating to the authorization to release a defendant or a person arrested upon his or her own recognizance.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2433 modifying the school calendar to begin not earlier than Labor Day and end prior to Memorial Day.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2877 relating to changing a fee for parking in an accessible parking space bearing the international symbol of access.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4030 increasing the limit for application for original appointment as a firefighter for 40 years of age for honorably discharged veterans.
The bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on first reading? If not, leaves of absence. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleagues, Delegate Wilson, Coles, Mant, Miley, Storch, Hornbuckle, and Caputo.
Are there objections to leaves being granted? Chair hears no objections. Leaves shall be granted. Remarks by members? Remarks by members. The gentleman, the 18th, Delegate Worrell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If you would indulge me for a couple of minutes, I'd like to bring something to your attention. On your desk today was an invitation. Senator Mark Maynard, Delegate Howell, and myself are sponsoring this trail ride excursion this Saturday. And we're really trying to bring awareness to the off-highway vehicle industry and tourism aspect of it. And so we currently have over 200 Jeeps committed to be at the Capitol this weekend on Saturday. We're going to be over in the parking lot there with the parking garage and the Veterans Memorial. But we invite all of you to come along. I've heard specifically from people all the way up from Ohio County, over in Jefferson, Greenbrier, down in Mercer. I mean, all over the state, people are driving in for this trail ride. These are enthusiasts. These are constituents of ours that really care about this off-highway vehicle. So we invite you to come that morning. I know we have busy lives and families and that we want to see, but this will be an all-day event that we would like to see some of you come and join us. We have plenty of people to take you on these rides. And I think it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good thing. We just want to bring awareness to this campaign that we're going to be pursuing from not only a camaraderie aspect, but also a conservation aspect as we've been working with other agencies as well. So want to make sure you all are aware that you are invited to come on that Saturday morning. Come, jump in a Jeep with some of us and ride on some trails that are just a few miles away from this Capitol and really go through the back country of our state and enjoy what our beautiful state has to offer. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman, the 28th, Delegate Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this morning, we were all privileged to see a young man stand up in the podium with our speaker and perform those duties for just a little while. That young man is from Monroe County. He's part of the Youth and Leadership Government Association, and that group from Monroe County has been asked to go to Harvard to compete up there in a United Nations forum this summer. There's 6 of them going to go, and they need a little bit of money. And so tomorrow I will be placing on your desks, I hope I can get it done, a way to donate if you would like to. If you will recall, a couple of years ago, I asked you to help send the JROTC from Monroe County to Normandy, France. And 2 years in a row now, they have been able to go from Monroe County to participate in the activities over there. So again, thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for letting the young man come up. And it makes me kind of proud to stand up here and ask for something for Monroe County when I see all the things they're doing, all the things their youth and leadership, youth and government classes are doing. They occupy about 3/4 of the seats in the legislative action that they learn through. And so I'm kind of proud of them, and hope we can all help them financially if you can afford to. Thank you.
Gentleman, the 16th, Doug Linville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to say thank you to the members of this body. Shortly before we walked in to session today, I was able to be downstairs with the governor, with the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and with the mayor of Milton, West Virginia, to sign the partnership agreement between the state, the city, and the United States Army Corps of Engineers for a flood control wall in Milton, West Virginia. The members of this body and the members of the Senate across the chamber here unanimously agreed to protect the people of Milton, West Virginia from another flood event. This flood wall will move the city from the 27-year floodplain into the 250-year floodplain. It's very rare in this body that we're able to put hundreds of dollars a month back in the pockets of our constituents. But by raising them to the 250-year floodplain, we've actually been able to eliminate the need for flood insurance for these folks in just a few short years. I commend each and every one of you for your vision. Milton, West Virginia could have been just like what happened along the Elk River. And with your support, with the support of each and every member in this chamber, we're able to do something incredible for the people of Milton, West Virginia. And I would just like to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman, the 12th, Doug Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow is the West Virginia Independent Insurance Agents of West Virginia Day at the Capitol. I am not an independent agent. The delegate from the 50th, I believe, is, or 54th, but there'll be a lot of different agents here and stuff. And to kick that off, there is a reception this evening at the Omega office on the 2006 Canal Boulevard East from 5 to 6:30. Be a lot of independent insurance agents there. If you can, stop by and meet one. Thank you.
Introduction to guests. The gentleman, the 47th, Dr. Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the North Gallery, we have two representatives of two great little cities in the heart of West Virginia. We have the administrator from Parsons, Jason Myers, and the city manager from Philippi, Jeremy Drennan. Please welcome them.
The gentleman, the 22nd, Doug Jeffries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two introductions. Visiting with us again today is Laura Given for our Doctor of the Day from Huntington, West Virginia. If the House would make her welcome. Also visiting with us today in the North Gallery is Rachel Chambley, all the way from Alabama. If she would stand up and the House make her feel welcome.
Miscellaneous business. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move subject to announcements, the House adjourn until 11 a.m. on Tuesday.
The question before the House is the lady's motion that the subject to announcements, the House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. on Tuesday. Are there announcements? Lady from the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Rules will meet at 10:45 tomorrow behind the chamber.
The gentleman, the 62nd, Doug Bibby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Veteran Affairs and Homeland Security will meet tomorrow afternoon, January 28th, in the House Government Organization Room at 2 p.m. The agenda will be posted.
The gentleman, the 10th, I got Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Finance will meet this evening at 5 p.m. for a budget presentation from the Bureau of Senior Services. Tomorrow, they will meet for two budget presentations, 9 a.m. for the Higher Education Policy Commission and at 10 a.m. for the Community and Technical Colleges. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman, the 35th, Dr. Capito.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Committee on the Judiciary will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in the committee room. The agenda for that meeting will be posted. As a reminder to the members of that committee, we will not meet this afternoon in our scheduled time. Thank you.
Lady from the 38th, Dr. Graves.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Pensions and Retirement will meet at 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon in the House Finance Committee room. The agenda has been posted.
The gentleman, the 29th, Castillo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The subcommittee on House Bill 4025, that was the one that was created today, that subcommittee will meet in the Judiciary Committee room at 3 p.m., and the Republican members of that subcommittee will caucus in the Vice Chairman's office 10 minutes prior at 2:50. Thank you.
The gentleman, the 13th, Higginbotham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Education will meet today at 3 p.m. in the Education Committee room. The agenda is posted, and also Republican members will caucus at 2:45 in the Chairman's office.
The gentleman, the 45th, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A reminder that your Republican members of your Committee on Government Organization will caucus in the Chairman's office today at 3 p.m., 213E in the East Wing. And, Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Government Organization will meet today at 4 p.m. in the House Government Organization Committee room, 215 in the East Wing. The agenda is posted.
The gentleman, the 13th, Cato.
Speaker, your Committee on Ag and Natural Resources will meet today at 1 o'clock. Just a reminder, in the House Judiciary room, and the agenda has been posted. Thank you.
The gentleman, the 12th, Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Banking Insurance will meet today at 1 o'clock p.m. in the House Government Organization room, and the agenda has been posted.
The gentleman, the 10th, Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Energy will meet tomorrow, January 28th, in the House Judiciary Committee room at 4 p.m. The agenda will be posted.
The gentleman, the 39th, Bartlett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to call the members' attention to the notice on your desk today that tomorrow, throughout the day, there will be dozens of Baptist pastors visiting our capital, and they'll be seeking to meet briefly with you and our senators as well. Let me assure you that they are not coming to push you on any issue or any legislation tomorrow. That's not what this day is for. They are coming simply to thank you for your service, to pray with you, and encourage you. And I would urge you to make some brief time in your schedule to meet these folks tomorrow. Thank you.
The gentleman, the 28th, Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Merely by way of planning, Republican members of this House will caucus tomorrow immediately following floor session. Not today, tomorrow following floor session. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman, the 25th, Painter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to remind everyone that as soon as we're done here, the coal caucus is going on in GovOrg room 215. Thank you.
The gentleman, the 37th, Pushkin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This afternoon at 1:30, there will be a criminal justice reform policy briefing in room 252, the McManus room. So for anyone who is interested in criminal justice reform, you're welcome to attend. That's at 1:30 this afternoon.
Are there other announcements? If not, the question before the House is a motion that the House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. Chair declares the motion adopted. The House is adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
Senate will please come to order. The Senate will please come to order. All those not having privileges of the floor will please vacate the chamber. And with those on the floor and our guests in the gallery, please rise as we are led in prayer this morning by Reverend Father Leon Alexander of St. John's the 23rd Pastoral Center in Charleston, West Virginia. And then please remain standing as we are led in the pledge this morning by the Senator from Marshall, Reverend Alexander.
And we pray. Loving God, Father of us all, on this International Holocaust Remembrance Day, as we remember that evil, prejudice, and hatred still exist in our world, we realize all the challenging and fearful decisions that demand the attention of this body, and we are always aware of your light that shines at the heart of our faith. Please instill in us the good that we are called upon to perform for our constituency. Give us the vision and wisdom to perceive the momentous issues of our generation and the courage to meet them with dedicated intelligence and resolve. May the work of this body always display our hope and desire for the splendor of peace, which comes from pure hearts and simple justice done. God of our fathers and mothers, make it true. We ask this in your good and holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Father. Senator from Marshall County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would all those present on the Senate floor and all the guests in gallery please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. The reading of the journal.
West Virginia Legislature Senate Journal, January 24th, 2020. The Senate met at 11:11 a.m. Senator
The
Carmichael.
senior senator from the 8th requests unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Introduction of guests. On behalf of the Senate, it is my pleasure to welcome our honorary pages for the day. Please stand and be recognized when your name is called. As guest of the senator from Boone County, we have Bailey Vyers and Jaron Luke Smith. As guest of the senator from Upshur, we have Savannah Reed and Taher Alukas. As guest of the senator from Logan, Brianna Crawford, Malia Faye Freeman, and Molly Bryant. As guest of the senator from Greenbrier, Christopher Hester and Noah Dotson. And as guest of the senator from Tucker, Hunter Wade Thomas. If they would, they're all standing in the front. If the Senate would make them feel welcome. Thank you. You may be seated. Further introductions, the junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senate, I'd like to announce our doctor of the day. In the rear of the chamber for the West Virginia Academy of Family Practice, we have with us Dr. Laura Given. If you wouldn't mind standing up, let the Senate give you a warm welcome.
The senator from Logan County.
Good morning, Mr. President. On behalf of my senior senator from the 7th, we have with us today the principal for 3 of our pages from Beth Haven Christian School, and she does a fantastic job, I might add. Please make her welcome, Miss Regina Vance.
The senior senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Seated in the North Gallery, we have City Councilman from Parkersburg, Eric Barber. He's here today visiting at the Capitol on behalf of the West Virginia Municipal League, and he'll be speaking at 1:30 about criminal justice reform in the Lewis McManus Room. Eric, please stand, and Senate make him welcome.
Further introductions, the senator from Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Logan, we're also pleased to have the chaperone of some of our pages from Beth Haven, the teacher Dusty Smith. If he would stand and the Senate make him welcome.
Senator from Monongalia County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senior senator from the 13th District, we have 2 special guests in the rear gallery with us from the City Clerk's Office of Morgantown. We have Heather Carl and Christine Wade. If they'll please stand and let the Senate make them welcome.
The senator from Jefferson County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one of my mayors from the city of Charlestown here, and on behalf of the senior senator from the 16th, I would like Bob Traynor to get up so the Senate can make him feel welcome.
The senator from Greenbrier County.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I would warn you, I have a long list of introductions, so thank you. First, the parents of our pages who are here today. So Chris is here, and Chris's mom, Melanie, who's the attendance director in Greenbrier County Schools. If she could please stand, and the Senate make her feel welcome. And also Noah's mom, Allison, is here. Allison Dotson is a lawyer in Lewisburg and my fellow church member. So if the Senate could please make Allison feel welcome. I've got several municipal officials here today. Mayor David Smith from my city of Ronceverte, West Virginia, if the Senate would make him feel welcome. And then several folks from Lewisburg, one of the two coolest small towns in America, both in the Senator from Monroe and mine district. So Mayor Bev White is the first African-American mayor in the history of Lewisburg, West Virginia. Will the Senate please make her feel welcome? And Shannon, the town recorder, is here with her as well, if the Senate will make her feel welcome. And last but certainly not least, we have a large group of students here today, a part of the Youth in Government program. Youth in Government's a leadership development program for students that began in the 19th century, and it's all about community service and leadership development. So we have the state officers with us here today. I'd like to recognize them one by one. If you'd please stand as your name is called. The Governor of Youth in Government from James Monroe, Carter Brown. The Treasurer from Point Pleasant, Avery Richardson. The Secretary of State from James Monroe, Abby Fraley. The Secretary of Transportation from Point Pleasant, Anna Litchfield. Member of the Governor's Cabinet from John Marshall, Janin Ritchie. Another cabinet member from the Governor, John Marshall also, Zara Zervos. The Senate President from Point Pleasant, Nazar Abbas. The Senate Clerk from Lewis County, Emily Herron. The Senate Chaplain from James Monroe, Madison Vass. The Speaker of the House from James Monroe, Riley Sparks. The House Clerk from Buchanan Upshur, Jonna Smith. The House Chaplain from James Monroe, Jacoby Meadows. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court from Point Pleasant, Casey Lyons. Associate Justice from Wirt County, L. Campbell. Associate Justice from Martinsburg, James Lamp. Associate Justice from James Monroe, Stephanie Persinger. And Advisor from James Monroe, Ashley Mann. On behalf of the Senator from Monroe and myself, will the Senate please make these students and their advisors welcome.
Senator from Harrison County.
Well, Mr. President, my introductions are going to pale in comparison, but I'm going to do my best to that long list of great people. Today is, we have our municipalities visiting us today, and up in north central West Virginia, we have no shortage of great people, as evidenced by, a lot of the activities going on up there, and there's a lot of great people that came before them, and I'm sure will come after them, but I wanted to introduce a few of them to the Senate today. From the town of Nutter Fort is Councilman Bill Benicosa, and I believe that's his lovely wife with him. I can't see that far. Bill, please stand and be welcomed by the Senate. Nutter Fort's done a great job and is progressing very well, and one of the finest cities in West Virginia, maybe because I live there, is the city of Bridgeport. And if you come through the city of Bridgeport, you'll see that it's one of the major strongholds in north central and central West Virginia for employment and activity. And we have one of our councilmen with us. Will Bob Greer stand up and be recognized? Bob Greer is also a lawyer like me, but I don't want you to hold that against him. And from our town of Shinston, which is a town that really gets isolated by roadways, but has done a great job with a lot of progressive activities and efforts. Let me start off with the mayor, who was filling some big shoes. Sam DeMarco was a great mayor for Shinston for a long time, and his replacement, who's done a great job, is Pat Kovlak, with city manager Chad Edwards, development coordinator Kylie Kyle, and city clerk Kathleen Panic. All of you please stand and be recognized by the Senate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further introductions? The Senator from Jefferson is recognized again.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. President. I had not seen that the Mayor Ranson is also here. So on behalf of the Senior Senator from the 16th and myself, would Keith Pearson please stand up so we can make him feel welcome? And one more, I see Kevin Knowles in the rear. He snuck in, and he is from the Berkeley County Council. Thank you.
All right. Senator from Logan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of my senior senator from the 7th, we have with us the president of the Municipal League, the mayor of Logan, Serafino Nolady. Would you please stand and let the Senate make you welcome?
The senator from Upshur County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Nicholas and me, I would like to introduce our page's parents and grandparents, and that they please stand when I announce your name. Adrian Flesher, Amy White, and Ellen Radeball. Would you please make them welcome?
Senator from Nicholas County.
Thank you. On behalf of the senior senator from Upshur County and I, a few folks we'd like to announce today. We have an official delegation from Elkins, West Virginia, from the city of Elkins. We also have Randy Sanders. He is the city recorder from Buckhannon. We also have Sam Felton. He is the mayor of Marlington. And we have Garrett Cole from the Nicholas County Commission. If all those folks would please stand and the Senate make them welcome.
Senator from Preston County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Tucker County and myself, we're pleased to have with us two representatives from cities within our district, from the city of Parsons and from the city of Philippi. From the city of Parsons in the South Gallery, Jason Myers, the city administrator, and also in the South Gallery, Jeremy Drennan, the city manager of Philippi. Please rise and let the Senate make them welcome.
Are there further introductions? The senator from Tucker County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Preston and myself, we have with us today the mother of our page, Hunter Thomas, sitting in the President's Gallery. If she would stand, Crystal Thomas, and the Senate make her welcome.
Junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the rear gallery here, I have with me a fourth-year medical student, Kathy Herman, from the O School. She's doing a 2-week legislative rotation to learn more about the process. If you wouldn't mind standing, let the Senate give you a warm welcome.
Are there further introductions? Communications from the House.
The Clerk of the House announced the passage by that body of committee substitute for House Bill 4002, creating a felony crime relating to drug delivery resulting in death.
Message will be received and referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
House Bill 4393, relating to making suffocation and asphyxiation crimes.
Message will be received and referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Are there further communications from the House?
No, sir.
Communications from the Executive?
There are none.
Reports from standing committees?
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration Senate Bill 175, requiring certain agencies maintain website which contains specific information, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
Report will be received. Recognize the junior senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous second reference to the Committee on Finance be dispensed. This bill is revenue neutral.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 261, creating criminal penalties for introducing ransomware into computer with intent to extort, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bills 339, 340, 341, 342, 343, 344, 345, 346, 347, 348, 349, 350, 351, 352, 353, and 354, DHHR rule relating to public water systems.
Report will be...
And reports the same back, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development has had under consideration Senate Bill 491 relating to seed certification program and reports back to committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Government Organization. Respectfully submitted, Dave Seipolt, Chair.
Report will be received, referred to Committee on Government Organization.
That's all I have, sir.
Reports from select committees.
Your Select Committee on Children and Families has had under consideration Senate Bill 230 requiring State Board of Education provide instruction to personnel on student suicide prevention and reports back to committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Education. Respectfully submitted, Tom Takubo, Chair.
Report will be received. Under the bill's original double committee reference, be referred to the Committee on Education.
That's all I have, sir.
Introduction of bills. Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill 624 through 631 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system.
Junior Senator from the 17th requests unanimous consent that Senate Bill number 624 through Senate Bill number 631 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the system. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Resolutions.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 12 by Senator Weld naming the U.S. Army PFD Gary Alcott Berkheimer Memorial Bridge.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day.
Senate Resolution 18 by Senator Prezioso congratulating Chad Newsom for winning the Earl S. Dillard Insurance Agent of the Year Award.
Under the rules of the Senate, a resolution will lie over one day.
Senate Resolution 19 by Senator Woelfel recognizing Prestera Center for Mental Health Services.
Under the rules of the Senate, a resolution will lie over one day. Are there further resolutions?
No, sir.
Motions? Petitions?
There are none.
Unfinished business?
Senate Concurrent Resolution 10 requesting study of current West Virginia laws relating to anti-bullying measures in schools.
Resolution will be received and referred to Committee on Education.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 11 asking Congress call convention for proposing amendments to impose fiscal restraints on federal government.
Resolution will be received and referred to Committee on the Judiciary.
Senate Resolution 16 recognizing 75th anniversary of liberation of Auschwitz and creation of International Holocaust Remembrance Day.
The Senator from Monongalia County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request the unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be put upon its adoption.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Clerk will please read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 16 recognizing 75th anniversary of liberation of Auschwitz and creation of International Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Question before the Senate is adoption of resolution. Is there discussion? Recognize the Senator from Monongalia County.
Thank you, Mr. President. And as the resolution is stated and as the clerk has read aloud, today marks the 75th anniversary excuse me, of the liberation of Auschwitz and the creation of the World Holocaust Remembrance Day. As we heard last week from our senator from Ohio, history, if not challenged, if not remembered, we're doomed to repeat it. And I think that's the message that we have here before us today. While Auschwitz was that point where we were liberating what was going on, the atrocities that were going on within these concentration camps, it was not the only concentration camp. As a matter of fact, there were 24 concentration camps throughout Europe with sub-camps as well. And Auschwitz, which I did not know until I did a little research, did not begin as one of the death camps. It actually began as a camp for slave labor, to hide or to punish those Polish who were opposing the Nazi regime at that time. And they were being held there. But slowly, the Nazis were overwhelmed because then they began the cleansing, so to speak, of the Jewish population. And Jews across Europe and throughout Germany were being brought into these death camps. And, we're all old enough to remember our history and what occurred within those death camps. But 11 million people died. 66 million people died, 11 million being Jews. But there were others. There were ethnic Poles, the Romas and the Sinti, which we know as gypsies in our some of our history. We also had 15,000 Soviet prisoners of war and other Europeans. During the process of this war, as the Soviets were advancing throughout Europe, they were just trying to liberate Auschwitz because they had Soviet prisoners there. They were not aware what was actually going on inside this camp. And on this day, they marched into this camp and saw the atrocities that the Germans were perpetrating on not just the Soviets, but the Jews and other ethnic folks across Europe. It wasn't until later that the Allies and the U.S. actually marched into Auschwitz and saw what was happening. It was so bad, folks, that we know the personality that General George Patton had, the bigger-than-life kind of person. He refused to go in. It bothered him that much. But Dwight D. Eisenhower made sure that he saw every inch of that camp. When they marched in there was just 7,000 prisoners within that camp at that time. But there were bodies still stacked up everywhere. In barracks, in little offices. They were just piled up, body upon body upon body. The Germans had actually taken the prisoners and put them on a death march into Germany, where most of them died in fields and forests by gunfire by the Nazis. But Dwight D. Eisenhower at that time said, get it all on record now, get the films, get the witnesses, because somewhere down the road of history, some bastard will get up and say that this never happened. And I think it's important for us to remember our history, to remember this day. But I am going to make today a little bit more political for me. When I entered the legislature in 2001, along with my good friend here at the podium, first appointment I was ever given was to sit on the West Virginia Holocaust Education Commission. It was established by executive order by Underwood, Governor Underwood, and then put into code in 2001 by then Governor Wise. And it was the first appointment I've had to a major commission here in the state of West Virginia. I was also appointed to LOC, and I was still to this day scratching my head on that one. But again, it set me on a path of a little more understanding and a little personal appreciation. I don't know if appreciation is the word I want to use, but definitely an understanding of what these folks, these survivors, had to go through. It was at that time I met Dr. Edith Levy from Morgantown, West Virginia. She's still alive today. I believe she is now 96 and still there, still trying to get her message out there. But she organized the West Virginia Holocaust Education Commission, one of the first in the United States, I'm proud to say. And she's worked diligently to try and get the message out there in our classrooms, particularly our 8th graders. They've actually published a book that's used at the middle school level. But unfortunately, Dr. Levy, in 2000, I guess it would be 15, her health took a turn for the worst. And she was championing this organization, pushing it forward, making sure the members showed up for the meetings, made sure the art projects were done, the writing projects were completed. She worked very diligently in trying to maintain that message in the community that the Holocaust did in fact occur. And it affects all of us, believe it or not. But unfortunately, as I said, her health took a turn for the worst, and the meetings fell off. I'm still an advisor on the committee. As a matter of fact, the Senate President continued my appointment through when he came to the podium. But the lessons are hard learned. And we've seen things here in our recent history in West Virginia that we are not happy with. I just point to the class of corrections and we'll let it go at that. We need to remember. We need to remember. We as a species, mankind can be very cruel to each other. Whether it be slavery or the Holocaust, we can be very cruel to each other. And it's been going on for centuries. But we can stop it. We can remember. I remember. And I will continue to remember. Where I'm going with this is that a year ago, following the Tree of Life synagogue killings, this group wanted to reform. Like I said, it's been defunct for several years now. They wanted to get this going, continue to get the message into our schools. Well, at that time, we did the research, we found out what we had to do, and it was more or less just a simple letter to the governor downstairs. That was a year ago that I made a request for the governor to make appointments to the commission. That has fallen on deaf ears, folks. A year later, that commission still goes unappointed. I keep watching. I have staff check every morning when I come in to see if names have come up from downstairs. Nothing. I don't know how to take that. I really don't know how to take that. And I think it would behoove all of us, as part of mankind, to ask the governor why he fails to appoint people to the West Virginia Holocaust Education Commission. Because it's agency heads, for the most part. There are 4 at-large members. There are 2 teachers, myself as an advisor and an advisor from the House. It's not a large commission. I'm making it large, at least I'm trying to make it. I don't know where the bill's going, if it's come upstairs yet, but I'm trying to enlarge that commission to take on more agencies into the mix so that we're meeting more often and we're meeting our assignment, which is education. Just a small quote, because I remember, and I hope you do after today. For the life survivor who chooses to testify, it is clear. His duty is to bear witness for the dead and for the living. He has no right to deprive future generations of a past that belongs to a collective memory. To forget would be to only dangerous and offensive, and to forget the dead would be akin to killing them a second time. I remember. I think this quote applies to us as well. We can't forget, because we will be killing them a second time, maybe a third time, maybe a fourth time, if we don't have history in the play, and if we don't have organizations like this, like the West Virginia Holocaust Education, to embed this in our mind, to embed this in the minds of our children, that this did in fact occur. And to be a denier nowadays is to not deny a whole population. A whole population. So I thank you for your time, for allowing me to speak, Mr. President, and ask for the yeas and nays on this issue. Thank you.
There's a further discussion. Recognize the Senator from Harrison County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm so glad my friend from Monongalia County introduced this resolution. It's such an important resolution. You know, if you look back through human history, there's been a lot of atrocities. The Ottoman Empire, slaughter of 20-some thousand people, slavery in the United States. Throughout our history, there's been terrible, terrible occurrences, human beings against human beings. Why? You have to ask yourself. But when you look at the Holocaust, 6 million Jews. If you try to put that number in perspective, it's hard to even fathom killing 6 million people, plus a couple million more of various other races and religions that the Nazis didn't agree with. But try to put that into context. 6 million, 3 times the number of people in our state, were slaughtered. And you can't imagine the agony that they went through, whether they were killed immediately or they were made to work until they died. You can't imagine that human suffering. And yet there's groups of people that will deny it ever happened, just like they denied that slavery happened in this country. And it's easy for us. But you know, you think about those historical moments, and you think about when they're fresh in our minds, 9/11, fresh in our minds. As time goes on, we forget. And it comes back to a cliche that you've heard me say on this floor 100 times. Those who fail to know history are doomed to repeat it. And if we fail to know this history, we will repeat it. We've already done so in Bosnia, in Rwanda, in large part in the Middle East, in Syria, and other places. We're allowing smaller scale, but the same kind of atrocities to occur again and again. It's up to this country, because we are the shining light on the hill, to stop those kinds of atrocities and to remember history and remember what waiting in this instance in World War II, by giving the Nazi Germans time to build up their armies and to take over most of Europe, the cost to this country. Hundreds of thousands of men, what's the equivalent of trillions of dollars today. I'd stand in strong support of SR 16.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion. Not. The question before the Senate is adoption of resolution. A roll call has been demanded. Is the demand sustained? The demand is sustained. All those in favor of the resolution will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting, having voted in the affirmative, I declare the resolution adopted. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Further unfinished business.
Senate Resolution 17, recognizing Leadership Berkeley.
Question for the Senate is adoption of the senior senator from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference dispensed with, and the resolution be put upon its adoption.
Senior senator from the 16th requests unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be placed upon its adoption. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Clerk will please read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 17, recognizing Leadership Berkeley for its service, dedication, and commitment to Berkeley County.
Question before the Senate is adoption of resolution. Is there discussion? Not. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. Junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting the resolution.
Junior senator from the 17th moves that the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting this resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Declare the Senate in brief recess to present this resolution. Senate will please come to order. Senate will please come to order. Recognize the senior senator from the 5th.
Requesting unanimous consent that the remarks by the Senator from Monongalia as it relates to Senate Resolution 16 be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Without objection, so ordered. Recognize the senator from Brooke County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request unanimous consent to return to the second order of business for purpose of an introduction.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Introductions. Recognize the senator from Brooke County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of myself and the senator from Ohio, we've got a wagon load of folks here from the city of Wheeling today. Council members Dave Palmer and Ty Thorngate, as well as Assistant City Manager Bill Lanham, City Clerk B.J. Delbert, Community Relations Manager Michelle Rojanis, and City Manager Bob Heron. They are in the gallery to my rear. If they could stand and the Senate make them feel welcome. Thank you.
The senior senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Cabell, I'd like to introduce the mayor of Huntington, Steve Williams. He's in the gallery to my
Further introductions? The senator from Greenbrier County.
Sorry, Mr. President, just one more. J.C. Faulkner is the Lewisburg City Administrator. If the Senate will please make her feel welcome.
Further introductions. Further introductions. Bills on third reading.
Engrossed Senate Bill 8, exempting certain armed forces veterans from payment of fees for license to carry deadly weapon. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? Is there discussion? Senator from Brooke County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 8 would exempt from the fees that are associated with a concealed carry permit those who are active duty members and are veterans who have been honorably discharged from all branches of the service. I urge passage.
Is there further discussion? Not. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Senator from Tucker County. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? So the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting, having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 114, providing continued eligibility for developmental disability services to dependents of military members. Third reading of the bill.
Question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Brooke County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 114 does exactly what the name states, is that it provides developmental disability services to dependents of military service members, those here in West Virginia who have or are members of our National Guard or the United States Active Services. Thank you, Mr. President. I urge passage.
So further discussion? The senator from Harrison County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this bill. It's the second year for this bill coming around. And, you know, I always say whether you're in combat or you're just stationed away from home, being in the military is one of the greatest sacrifices you could make. This is a small bill to make life easier for those parents that have disability services, need disability services for their dependents, and I urge a yes vote.
Further discussion? Not. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 289, creating Green Alert Plan. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Brooke County.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Senate Bill 289 would create what is known as the Green Alert Plan. The Green Alert Plan would be very similar to the Amber Alert Plan or the Silver Alert Plan, which the state already has created, but it differs in that while the Amber Alert focuses on children and the Silver Alert program focuses on senior citizens, the Green Alert Plan would focus on veterans as well as active duty military members. And it would focus on at-risk veterans or at-risk members of the military who have gone missing and who are known to have a physical or mental health condition that is related to their service. The protocol would then be put into place that is very similar to the Amber Alert and Green Alert or Silver Alert program, allowing for the state police to disseminate information on the interstates here in West Virginia through the turnpike system, as well as to the public. And that is the goal in this, to be able to get information as quickly as possible to law enforcement and the public. Because oftentimes, unfortunately, what we have seen, Mr. President, that veterans who have gone missing and suffer from a condition related to their service oftentimes become a victim of suicide. Suicide rates in the United States among military members is 22 a day. And while our general population is made up of about 1% of veterans and military members, those same two groups account for 19% of all suicides committed in the United States. And so this would allow for a better response by the public, by law enforcement, to find those people if they have an intention of hurting themselves and getting them the help that they need so that that doesn't happen. And so I urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? Not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? So the clerk will close the machine, ascertain the results. On this question being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting, having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 303, enacting Students' Right to Know Act. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Jefferson County.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill creates the Students' Right to Know Act. It requires the State Board to collect certain specified information annually to help students make more informed decisions. The bill also includes provisions requiring the information to be distributed to students and published on the Department of Education's website, and also includes language requiring other agencies possessing the required information to provide the information to the State Board. I'm happy to answer any questions. I urge passage.
Is there further discussion? If not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? So the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting, having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective January 1, 2021, and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Junior senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective January 1, 2021, and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none on this question being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent not voting, more than 2/3 of those elected having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective January 1, 2021. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 357, authorizing Department of Revenue promulgate legislative rules. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 357 is Rules Bundle 7. It's the bundle that comes from the Department of Revenue, and it contains seven different rules which come from the Insurance Commissioner, the Racing Commission, and the State Tax Division. I'll go through them quickly. The first rule is from the Insurance Commissioner. It relates to Medicare supplement insurance, and it's codified at 114 CSR 34. That's an amendment to an existing rule. The next rule is from the insurance commissioner, relates to a credit for reinsurance. It's codified at 114 CSR 40. It is also an amendment to an existing rule reflecting changes that were made during the 2018 session of the legislature. The third rule is from the insurance commissioner, and it relates to pharmacy auditing entities and pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs. It's codified at 114 CSR 99, and it implements the Pharmacy Audit Integrity Act and relates to licensing. The next rule comes from the Racing Commission relating to thoroughbred racing. It's codified at 178 CSR 1. Regulates all aspects of thoroughbred racing in West Virginia, amending the existing rule. The next rule comes from the State Tax Division relating to payment of taxes by electronic funds transfers. It's codified at 110 CSR 10F. Excuse me, implementing the provisions of West Virginia Code 1110, Section 5T. Those were amended last year in Senate Bill 656. The State Tax Division rule regarding consumer sales tax, consumer sales and service tax and use tax regarding drugs, durable medical goods, mobility enhancing equipment, and prosthetic devices, exemptions, motor vehicle per se exemptions. Is codified at CSR 110-15C. It is also an amendment to an existing rule incorporating changes necessitated by the passage of House Bill 2515 during last year's regular session. The final rule in the bundle comes from the Tax Division relating to the exchange of information pursuant to written agreements. It's codified at 110 CSR 50C, and that comes from Senate Bill 1, which we passed last year in 2019 session with respect to the West Virginia Invests grant program. Mr. President, I'd be happy to answer any questions about these rules. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? If not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Junior Senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective from passage and requests unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question there being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent not voting, more than 2/3 of those elected having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 364, authorizing Department of Transportation promulgate legislative rules. Bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? Senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 364 is also a rules bundle. It's the bundle number 8, and it comes to us from the Department of Transportation. It contains 5 rules. 3 of them are from the Department of Transportation. 2 are from the DMV. I'll go through them quickly. The first rule is from the Department of Highways regarding the use of state road rights-of-way in adjacent areas. It's codified at 157 CSR 6. And we struggle with this one a little bit, but what we ended up doing was it modifies an existing rule by requiring the division to promulgate an interpretive rule relative to the replacing the 2007 manual used by the Division of Highways. The second rule in the bundle is Department of Highways. It's a rule regarding the transportation of hazardous waste upon roads and highways, and that modifies an existing rule. It's codified at 157 CSR 7. The third rule, also from the Division of Highways, relates to small wireless facilities on DOH rights-of-way. It's codified at 157 CSR 13. Relates to, it's a new rule. It sets forth a plan whereby persons may obtain access to place small wireless facilities in our highway rights-of-way. It flows from legislation that we passed last year. The Small Wireless Facilities Development Act, and our effort, the legislature's effort to expand availability of broadband throughout the state of West Virginia. The next rule in the bundle is Division of Motor Vehicles. It's a Safety and Treatment Program Rule, 95 CSR 15. And it's a new rule which establishes a comprehensive safety and treatment program for persons found in violation of serious traffic offenses. The final rule in the bundle is also DMV rule. It relates to state vehicle titles, registration, and relicensing project 2018. It's codified at 91 CSR 21, and it contains the naming convention for state agencies for the purpose of titling and registering state vehicles, necessitated by the passage last year of House Bill 4015. Mr. President, be happy to try to answer questions. Otherwise, urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? The recognized senior senator from the 5th.
Would the senator yield from Morgan?
Senator from Morgan yield. Senator does yield.
Yes.
As it relates to the wireless and the portion along the right-of-way, that does not change the declaration that the governor made relating to no value to the right-of-way, that it will cost no one any money to be able to access that right-of-way.
I think the senator's correct. Let me double check. Yeah, there's nothing in the rule that would change that. Senator's correct. There was some controversy earlier, remember, and concern about what seemed to many of us to be exorbitant charges that were being proposed by the Division of Highways. This doesn't change.
Senator, I would propose that we revisit this year and actually codify that, what the governor has discussed, because if we're going to be able to expand broadband, and this is from being on the Broadband Council and listening to all the discussions, particularly with AEP's middle mile, and First Energy's getting ready to come up with a middle mile proposal. One of the things we really need to be able to do is be able to utilize the Department of Highways right-of-way, the Department of Transportation's right-of-way, at no value to be able to expand into the most remote areas of the state.
My distinguished colleague from Wayne's, if the proposal is to enact a statute that addresses that, I would have no objection to it. I think that's an excellent idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Not. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? So the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting, having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Junior Senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective from passage and requests unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question there being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent not voting, more than 2/3 of those elected having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 468 relating to eligibility for license or permit application. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The Senator from Upshur County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 468 relating to eligibility for license or permit application. Current code currently requires an applicant for any class of license from the Division of Natural Resources to state to the issuing agent that he or she is eligible for and has satisfied all prerequisites for that class of license. Additionally, it is unlawful to to make a false statement when applying for a license. This bill amends the statute by extending the eligibility statement requirement to permits and making it unlawful to make a false statement when applying for a permit. The penalties for making a false statement is covered under Code 20-7-9, where they be subject to a misdemeanor. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? Not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? So the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action and send it to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 470 relating to use of crossbow to hunt. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? Senator from Upshur County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 470 deals with relating to the use of a crossbow to hunt. It includes requiring specifications for crossbows to be used for hunting in West Virginia. One of the specifications in the current statute is that the bolt, and the bolt is another term for an arrow, be not less than 18 inches in length. This committee substitute decreases the minimum length of the bolt to not less than 16 inches. Be happy to answer any questions and urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? If not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? So the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk has a title amendment.
Senator Hamilton moved to amend the title of the bill.
Question before the Senate is adoption of the title amendment. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Declare the title amendment adopted. Clerk will communicate the action and send it to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 487, providing exception that all DNR payments be deposited within 24 hours. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? Senator from Upshur County.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 487, providing exception that all DNR payments be deposited within 24 hours. Under current law, the law states that the deposits have to be made at our state parks or wildlife management areas within 24 hours. This bill simply changes that from 24 hours to they have up to 7 days. And the reason that's being done, we have parks that are in rural areas of the state, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to make a $10 deposit within 24 hours. So happy to answer any questions, and I urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? If not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? So the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action and send it to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 500 relating to Class-Y special crossbow hunting permit. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? Senator from Upshur County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 500 relating to Class-Y special crossbow hunting permit. West Virginia Code sets forth requirements for a Class-Y hunting permit, which is available to certain disabled persons as set forth in the statute. Under the current statute, the applicant is required to authorize by written release and examination of all medical records regarding his or her qualifying disability as part of the application. The committee substitute eliminates this requirement. The committee substitute also eliminates the language stating that the completed permit form constitutes a Class-Y permit. Simply, the Department of Natural Resources doesn't want to keep these records on file. They'd either be destroyed or returned to the patient. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion? Not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Every member voted. So the clerk will close the machine, ascertain the results. On this question, 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent not voting. More than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action and send it to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 501, adding protection, operation of North Bend Rail Trail, Greenbrier River Trail, and Elk River Trail to Parks and Recreation section of DNR. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Upshur County.
The final bill, Mr. President. Senate Bill, committee substitute for Senate Bill 501 relating to North Bend Trail, Rail Trail, Greenbrier River Trail, and Elk River Trail. The code sets forth the powers and duties of the section of Parks and Recreation within the Division of Natural Resources. The statute currently includes continued protection, operations, and maintenance of the Greenbrier River Trail and the North Bend Rail Trail. This committee substitute clarifies the location of those trails. The committee substitute also adds continued protection, operation, and maintenance of the Elk River Trail, which consists of the right-of-way of the Elk River Coal and Lumber Railroad, Buffalo Creek Gully Railroad, and the Middle Creek Spur. The committee substitute specifies that this includes protection of the trail from motorized vehicle traffic and operation for the protection of adjacent public and private property. Be happy to answer any questions and urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? Not. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine, ascertain the results. On this question being 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action and send it to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 509 relating to custodial allocation actions independent of divorce. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 509 does what the short title suggests. It relates to venue in child custody cases independent of divorce. It would enact a single new section of the code. And it goes in Chapter 48, Article 9, and it would be designated as Section 105. Chapter 48 is our Domestic Relations Code. Article 9 relates to the allocation of custodial responsibility and decision-making. And this bill was actually brought to us by the family court judges as being necessary because there's apparently ambiguity in our law. We have venue statutes in that article that address pretty clearly what's the appropriate venue in cases of divorce, but as we all know, there are cases where the biological parents of children may have never been married to one another. And our statutes do not address adequately now what county is the proper venue. The bill tries to make clear that it's not a jurisdiction question, and the bill defers to the Uniform Child Custody Jurisdiction and Enforcement Act when you have interstate questions. West Virginia is a party to that compact. This bill addresses a narrow question is when you have two people who are parents of a child, the parents are never married to one another, there's not a divorce case, what's the proper venue within West Virginia for the case to be adjudicated? And the bill answers that as follows. It establishes venue, and the venue determination of custodial allocation will be in the county where the parties and the child last resided together, or in the child's home county, which under the law is where the child has resided for at least 6 months or since birth. And if a child over the age of 6 months has not resided in any county for 6 months, then proper venue is going to be in the county where the respondent resides at the time of filing. If the question is one of modification of an existing child custody order, then venue for that is in the county where the initial custodial allocation order was entered. Mr. President, be happy to try to answer questions. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? So the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question being 32 yeas, 2 absent, not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting, having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Are there further bills on third reading?
No, sir.
Bills on second reading?
Senate Bill 51, specifying forms of grandparent visitation. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 191, creating felony offense of aggravated cruelty to animals. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 201, relating generally to criminal offenses of stalking and harassment. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. Senator Trump moves to amend the bill on page 2.
Senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent to explain the amendments in lieu of having them read, and I ask unanimous consent that all the amendments be considered as one.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment is technical. It's changing the word confined to imprisoned in one section of the bill, and it's rewriting a subsection E, to make technical corrections to that. I urge adoption of the amendment.
Is there further discussion? Not. Question before the Senate is adoption of the amendment as offered by the Senator from Morgan, and that all amendments be considered as one. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Declare the amendments adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Not the amendment. If not, bill will be engrossed to advance to third reading.
Senate Bill 523, extending deadline for municipalities to offer Social Security coverage to certain municipal retirement system members. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. Senator Azinger moved to amend the bill on page 1, section 28, line 11, by striking out the word jointly.
Is there discussion? Senator from Wood County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a simple amendment to strike a single word from Chapter 8, Article 22A, Section 28, subsection B of the Code. By striking the word jointly from the Code, it would allow individual municipalities to submit their own plans to the state auditor to extend Social Security benefits to retirees. Mr. President, I will entertain questions, and I urge adoption of the amendment.
Is there further discussion? Not. Question before the Senate is adoption of the amendment as explained by the Senator from Wood. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Not. The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 529, establishing limitations on claims and benefits against states. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 532, distributing assets remaining in municipal policemen's or firemen's pension and relief fund on death of last retiree or beneficiary. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Not. The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading. Are there further bills on second reading?
No, sir.
Bills on first reading. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that all bills on first reading be considered read and advance to second reading.
Junior senator from the 17th requests unanimous consent that all bills on first reading be considered as having been read and advanced to second reading. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. So ordered. Introduction of guest. Remarks by members of the Senate. Senior senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to talk a little bit about something that happened today that been a long time in coming. The governor held a press conference this morning, and the senator from Cabell and I were there. There have been a series of floods in Milton, West Virginia in 1913, 1939, 1978, 97, 2003, and 2015. Now, I was only around for 4 of those events. 1913 and 1939, I was not there. even though some people think that I've been there that long. But I have been in 1978 when that happened. I remember that distinctly. But 1997 in particular was the worst flood that they've had. Now, we're dealing with a lot of the things related to what's happened in Kanawha County, and we just dedicated a new school, groundbreaking for a new school for Herbert Hoover. And these kind of events, now I remember in Wayne County when we had, in Cabell County when we had floods, but this is the first time that I can ever remember that the federal government has ever come with $98 million in their hand already passed from 2018. This was a matter of us from a legislative body and from the governor's office coming up with $45 million to match that. Today we had with Colonel Evers, with Mayor Canterbury, and with the governor, the signing of the proclamation for us to fulfill the state obligation of this. There's a city obligation and there's a Corps of Engineers obligation. This is a long time in coming, and to be honest with you, if we can do preventative measures like this prior to the flooding, none of us know, but it's fairly certain that in the next 25 years there's going to be an event in Milton, and in the next 3 or 4 years we can prevent that by having this levee. Some call it a flood wall. We can call it a levee or flood wall. I don't care now that it's paid for. You can call it whatever you want. But it is something that has been needed, and this will transform that area, not only from the standpoint that it will make businesses thrive, be able to relocate in areas that they haven't necessarily been before, but it will give you some certainty to insurance rates. It will reduce the insurance rates in a lot of those areas. And this was a great day for Milton, and I really was glad to be there. Now, the only thing I got out of that was the pen that the governor used to sign his portion of it. I would have to tell you that I really appreciate the senator from Cabell, and in particular Delegate Linville from the House in their work on this, and my call in the governor's office. They understood the need for this, and they understood what was really needed to be done, and it finally got done today, and I appreciate that. And so this is a good day for the city of Milton.
Further remarks, the senator from Cabell County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just say that Senator Plymel, when the people said build the wall, he did. Now, I request unanimous consent that the elegant remarks of the senior senator from Wayne County be printed in the appendix of the Journal, and that the beautiful remarks by the senator from Mon County on our resolution earlier today about the Holocaust, that those comments be printed in the agenda or the appendix of the Journal.
Without objection, so ordered. Further remarks by members? Further remarks. Miscellaneous business. The junior senator from 17th. Clerk has a voting sentiment.
Had Senator Woelfel been present in the chamber on Thursday, January 23rd, he would have voted nay on the following bill, Senate Bill 192.
The senator from Cabell County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I seek unanimous consent that my voting sentiment be recorded in the Journal.
Without objection, so ordered. Further miscellaneous business, the junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pending announcements, I move the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Are there announcements? Senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on the Judiciary will resume its 10 a.m. meeting at 3 o'clock p.m. today in the Judiciary Committee Room in 208 West. Same agenda as this morning.
Further announcements. Further announcements. The senator from Upshur County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Natural Resources will meet today in 208 West at 1 o'clock.
Senator from Marshall County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Health will not meet tomorrow. The next meeting for Health will be Thursday at 1 in 451M.
Senator from Wetzel County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure will meet tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., room 451.
Further announcements, the junior senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Senate Finance Committee will meet this afternoon in the Finance Committee room at 3 p.m. We'll hear budget presentations from the Department of Commerce and the Department of Military and Public Safety. Thank you.
Further announcements, the senator from Wood County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Banking and Insurance will meet today at 2 o'clock in room 451A.
Further announcements, senator from Wood.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also want to announce the independent insurance agents will be having a reception this evening. I apologize here, I don't have the time. At 5 o'clock at the Omega office, which is 2006 Canal Boulevard East. And then also, you'll see on your desk, card looks like this, and the West Virginia Capital Connection, which is taking place every year for a number of years now, will be tomorrow, and different pastors will be coming in. No political agenda at all, just taking any kind of prayer request you might have, and just want to encourage you to take time to meet with them tomorrow, Tuesday, January 28th, Capital Connection. Thank you, Mr. President.
Are there further announcements? Not. Question for the Senate is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do. I declare the Senate adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.